Hello BookTube, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Book as in Books. It's been a few weeks since I've made a video. There was no particular reason. I was just a little bit tired, so I guess I did not have the mental space, as we say today, to make videos. But today, well, not today, technically it's tomorrow because I'm filming the day before. But as this video is being posted, we are December 1, and that means it's the beginning of Remember December, the Rereadathon. So this is an event hosted by myself and Anne Novella, as well as 5 other co-hosts who are Criminally, Aaron Facer, Scally about the books, Shelley Swearingen, and Miss Reads a Lot. And we are collectively inviting you to reread, because rereading is an activity that is not being done enough on BookTube. We talk about all the new books that we find, all the new books that we discover, but rereading is also part of reading, and that's what we invite you to do. So either you already reread, and we then invite you to just indulge in it, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I feel guilty sometimes rereading a book because there are so many books I haven't read. But this month we are saying indulge, and if you've never done it, try it. It's fun. It's really fun. And if you don't know where to begin, we have 3 prompts for you. And this is my pile of possibilities for these 3 prompts and some more. So in no particular order, one of the prompts is reread a book in a different way. So it can mean a different format. Perhaps you read a printed book and then you want to try the audiobook. It could mean a different edition of the book where this time there is a full introduction and explanations and all of that. It could be a different translation. It could be anything that you want. It could be a book that you read in school and now you want just to read it for fun. It could be the opposite way, a book that you read really, really fast and now you just want to take your time with it. So just read a book in a different way. So for me, I have a couple of candidates for that. The first one and the most likely is Gilgamesh. So the Epic of Gilgamesh. This one is translated by Andrew George. I've already read 3 versions of Gilgamesh. Some of them are called translations, some of them are called versions or rewriting, but it's still the story of Gilgamesh, and all 3 versions that I read were also in poetry form. So they were the versions by Stephen Mitchell, Herbert Mason, and David Ferry. So these are the 3 that I've read, and this would be my 4th. I started it this summer. And for some reason, I never went beyond the introduction. I got stuck somewhere in the introduction. So perhaps this time I'll just skip the introduction and go straight to the epic poem. Because I've read it 3 times. I know it. I don't need the introduction. So that's a possibility. Another possibility is one of my favorite authors. And this is Dostoyevsky. So this is a book that I bought at not quite a year ago. And it's well, it's in French. So that's why there's perhaps a weird spelling for you of the name Dostoyevsky. These are translations by André Markowitz. And most of the Dostoyevsky I've read was not by this translator. So in this volume, I have The Idiot, The Gambler, and Crime and Punishment. I've already read The Idiot earlier in the year, in January. So the other 2 possibilities are The Idiot, not The Idiot, The Gambler, which is probably the most likely because it's the shortest of the 2, and the other one would be Crime and Punishment. But it's a big undertaking. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to undertake Crime and Punishment, but who knows? I may be in the mood for it. So that's another possibility. And I have plenty of possibilities, so this is just a sample, really. The second prompt is read a book that you've basically forgotten, and for that, I have plenty of options. So the first option is The Wars by Timothy Findley. I started reading this book, again, I was eager to start Remember December, and I started in November, and also in November there was the event World War November, where we were invited to read about World War I. So this book is set during World War I. So I am now at page 84 out of 218. So I'm not quite halfway through, but this is a very likely option. Another very likely option for a book that I've basically forgotten, the Pastoral Symphony by André Gide. So this one is in French, obviously. This is the book that I read in school. I read in high school. I don't remember if I was 14 or 15 because I had the same French teacher for 2 years in a row. So I remember reading this book with that particular teacher, but I don't remember which year. And I don't remember the content at all. I have no idea what it's about. So you see this picture, assuming that the cover art sort of matches the interior. That means it's set in winter. In my mind, this was a spring book. So I have no idea. I'm pretty sure there's a young man involved in this, but then again, this is André Gide, so young men are his thing in more ways than one, and not necessarily positive ways. Anyway, so that I don't remember anything about this book, and it's very short. It is 157 pages, but if you look at the pages, there's nothing in these pages. It's more paper than ink. So yeah, this would be a quick reread. So this is a very high possibility. Our third prompt is one that I find very interesting, is reread a book to find out how you really feel about it. So there's two ways to go about this one. So perhaps it's a book that you didn't like at first, and now you're thinking, perhaps I should revisit. So I have a candidate for that option, and I don't have a copy. So I found this cover on the internet. So this is in English. I would read the original French version. So this is Trading Secrets by Paule. It won the Goncourt in 1998. I believe, and I read it not long afterwards. So I was in my teens, I think perhaps 20 at the most when I read this book. And this book is about four middle-aged women who are at a conference somewhere in the United States. They are during a break, or perhaps a day off, I don't remember. In my mind, it's a Sunday, but they are reflecting on their lives. So these four women are at a conference on women's rights, feminism, something like that, and each of them is reflecting on her situation, and her situation is that she is without a man in her life. And at the time, I thought, this was so stupid. Here are four feminists complaining that they don't have a man in their lives, and now that I'm older and wiser, perhaps I would see more things in this book. So I want to reread it just to make sure whether at the time I found it boring. I don't think I would find it boring now. But at the time, I found it stupid. Four feminists who complain because they don't have a man in their lives. So I want to know, is there more to this book? Have I missed something because of the age that I was? Now that I'm older and wiser, more than twice the age that I was back then, I probably know better. So I think I could enjoy this book a lot more this time. And the other possibility to interpret the prompt is reread a book that you loved to make sure that you still love it. And that candidate for me, again, I'm not sure I'm going to reread it because it's big. It's Germinal by Zola. I read this book once, just once, and it was a number of years ago. And I say, this is one of my favorite books, and this is the best novel written in the French language, the best, one of the best at least. From those that I've read, I think it's my candidate for best novel, best novel of French literature. So I read it once. Can I really say that about a book that I read just once? So I would like to reread it just to make sure that it is as powerful as I remember it, that it is as brilliant as I remember it. So this is a possibility, but then again, in this case, the print is extremely small, extremely fine, and there's a lot of text, so not a lot of dialogue in there, and there's 600 pages of it. I was about to say 700, but no, it's 594 pages of it. So possibility, but not a very high possibility. So these are the three prompts. But then again, the idea of this readathon is just to invite you to reread. Just enjoy rereading. So I have a whole bunch of books. I just went through my shelves and I thought, oh, this was fun. This was fun. I would like to reread this. So I just made a little pile of some of my, not necessarily my favorite books, but some books I would like to reread. So I'm going to start with, they are in no particular order, but I think I'm just going to put them in order. I'm going to start with fiction. So in fiction, these are some of my favorite books that I love to reread. So the first two I've already read multiple times, and I wouldn't mind rereading them again. So this is Colomba by Prospère Mérimé. This is a novella. It's much shorter than it actually is. Oh, actually, this one would fit for a read in a different manner because this copy is sort of new to me. I got it in a box set of 5 books, and this one is a double. In fact, I already have another copy. So this would be the first time for me reading it in that copy. It's never been read. It's brand new. And I did not buy the box set new. I bought it at a used bookstore, but I think the person who received that, I assume it's somebody who received it as a gift and never read it. So anyway, Colomba by Prospère Mérimé. It's set in Corsica. It's very atmospheric. I really like it. So this one, in English, the title is Outlander, and this is possibly my favorite novel of all time. There is a scene in there that I particularly like to reread at this time of year. It is some sort of New Year's Eve village party, and for some reason it reminds me of the Christmas that we had at my mother's place. Well, not my mother, but the place where she was born. She grew up on a farm, and for years and years, on Christmas Day, there was a huge family reunion hosted by her parents. And when her parents died, it was taken over by her brother and her sisters. And there was this huge gathering of like 50 people. And it's always been one of my favorite, one of my most intense childhood memory, these Christmases with 50, 60 people. And this scene in this book somewhat reminds me of that atmosphere. So I love to reread that particular part at this time of year. But I may reread the entire book because it's not very big. This one is about 220 pages, so it rereads really well. The other one, another novel, it's been a really long time since I've reread it. I think I've read it twice. I think I've read it at least twice, but I'm not sure. So this is The Scapegoat by Daniel Pennac, and this is the first in a series, and recently the author went back to this series and added another volume to it. I think there's already 7 or 8 books in that series, and I've read them all. Have I read them all? I think I've read them all. I've read the first 7. So if there are 8, I haven't read the 8th. But anyway, and the most recent one, obviously, I haven't read. But I'd like to reread it. It was just so much fun. It's not really a serious book. As you can see by the cover, there's some funny aspect to it, despite the bomb. There are some funny aspects to it. And it was just a joy to read. So I'd like to reread this one. And the other ones are all nonfiction, because sometimes it's fun to reread nonfiction. By the same author, Daniel Pennac. So this is Reads Like a Novel. I think that's the title in English. And it includes the 10 rights of the reader. It includes at number 4, the right to reread. So relire in French, that is reread in English. So I will exercise my 4th right of the reader and reread. Yeah, this is a book about reading, so it's always fun. This one, this has been translated in English. I believe the title is Journey with No Return or Journey Without Return. I'm going to write it in the description box, and it is by Raymond Maufrais. So this is a diary. This man is stupid. I'm sorry to say that, but he could have won a Darwin Award, almost, but he writes really, really well. So this young man, I believe he went to war, to the Second World War, and once the Second World War was over, he found himself kind of bored, and he decided to go on a big adventure. He was fascinated by explorers, and he decided that he would be one of these explorers and would go on an adventure. He wanted to cross South America, I guess, to walk on foot alone from Guyana in French, so Guyana, I think, in English, and walk south all the way to Brazil. So cross the Amazon from north to south, but not just the Amazon. There's a mountain range separating the south of Brazil and the Amazon basin from the rest, from the coast of the Caribbean Sea. And as far as I know, to this day, nobody has done that. Nobody has walked that, because there's no sense in doing that. It's slightly stupid. And this man, who had no preparation whatsoever, oh, I'm a good hunter, I can do this. He decided to just take his backpack and walk and do that, despite so many people telling him not to do it. And he walked in the jungle and he disappeared. So that's what happened. And his diary was found by indigenous people, and they brought it back to the mission. And the saddest thing about this is that he never went even beyond the last point where white men went. So obviously he did not walk into virgin territory, because that territory was occupied by indigenous people. But he never even passed the last point where white men went. So he discovered absolutely nothing. He was the first to walk absolutely nowhere. The man is stupid. Anyway, despite that terrible, terrible choice that he made, I found that book fascinating when I read it. I guess this one could fit the prompt of reread a book to make sure how you feel about it. Because when I read it, I was fascinated. But then I didn't know how it ended. Now I do know how it ends. So perhaps maybe I would not be as fascinated. But anyway, I thought that book was fascinating. So it's worth a rereading. So that's another possibility. A book on language, because I like languages. So this is Through the Language Glass, Why the World Looks Different in Other Languages. So the author, Gide Deutscher, he is a linguist, and he talks about how other languages are made. And I remember in this one, there was a big discussion about color, how color is described in other languages and the words used. And if I remember, there's also direction, how the sense of direction in other languages. Yeah, that one could be a book about which you remember nothing, but yeah, I don't remember. So The Language Mirror and The Language Lens. So this was a very good book, and I would like to reread it. And then I have a couple of books on art that I haven't read in a while. So this is The Orange Balloon Dog by Thompson. So it's about the world of art, the selling of art, the value of art. At the time this book was written, this orange balloon dog was the most expensive work of art ever sold. And this one was made by Jeff Koons. And then not long after that, that sculpture was beaten by a painting by David Hockney. And then again, I don't know if it was another balloon dog, but it was another sculpture by Koons that went, again, at the most expensive work of art ever sold, by a living artist, I should add, by a living artist. And I believe that now a painting by Hockney has again taken the first place. So so this book is slightly out of date for this kind of information, but I believe the principles in there are the same. And I remember that at the end of that book, I felt somewhat disgusted by the world of art, because it was all about money. It was clear that art in and of itself had very little importance. It was all about money. But it was interesting, nevertheless. And another book about art was 7 Days in the Art World by Sarah Thornton. Oh, I forgot to say, did I say the author? Oh yeah, Thompson, I said it. So this one I felt a lot less disgusted after reading this one. So in this book, the author takes a day, goes into a particular aspect of the art world. So one day she's at an auction house, another day she's in a museum, a third day she's in a private gallery, something like that. And this sort of gives us an insight into various aspects of the art world, and gives us a bit of an overview in a way. A view that not many people in the art world have, because most people are either from the auction house or are an artist or are something else. And it's not everyone that can give us an overview of all these aspects. So in this book, we have all these things in a single book. And I remember very much enjoying reading this book. And again, I don't remember much about the content. So remember December. Yes, that's a good choice of word. So that's a pile of possibilities. I may as well read something else entirely. Well, reread something else entirely. I haven't explored the possibility of audiobooks. I could try that because I will have some manual work to do in December. I will have to pack my stuff. In September, I had a flood, and now I have arranged for the floors to be redone. And for that to be done, I literally have to clear the floors. I have to make the floors accessible. So for that, I have to remove furniture, and I cannot move bookcases that are full of books. So I'm going to have to pack that, and I'm going to have to pack the content of wardrobes, and I'm going to have to pack a lot of stuff. So that would be made much more enjoyable if I could have an audiobook, and probably an audiobook of a book that I've already read. So that would help me being able to follow the audiobook. And yeah, anyway, I'm going to explore the possibilities of audiobooks. I have access to them through my library and through the app formerly known as Scribd. Now it is Everend. So I have possibilities, but I don't know what they are because I haven't explored them yet. So with that, I'm going to end this video, and let me know in the comments if you intend to reread something in December. And I will see you in the next video, and hopefully that will not be in 3 weeks. We'll see you in the next video, as I said, and à la prochaine.